The meeting will come to order. I'd like to welcome everybody here today. It is always great to see a parking lot full of cars and walk in the door and see so many kids that have done great things in District 15 that are here to be acknowledged. That's definitely the most special part of being on the board. I'd also, in my welcoming comments, like to say that we have just passed the election, as everybody knows, with Board of Education seats up. And at this point, we're able to welcome a couple of people. I'd like to welcome a returning board member, Zubair, and congratulate him.
Thank you.
Zubair's done great things in the past 4 years as he's been on the board, and I'm sure the 4 coming up will be impactful also, with the ability to close out some things that we're working on right now. I'm able to welcome one new member of the board, Samantha Ader. Here at the back with her hand up. Congratulations. We look forward to welcoming you at the changeover at the end of the month. And the third spot, it's incredibly exciting, this whole Board of Education election, because we have 3 people that are so very close that they can't call the election as of today. And from what I understand, it's 3 weeks after the election date when that decision will be finalized, after they finish counting all of the mail-in ballots that have come in and everything else that's outstanding. So it's incredible to just see those numbers move little by little by little, and so you'll have to wait and find out where we are as we get closer to the 24th. That said, may I have a roll call, please?
Iannarino,
Here.
Porter,
Here.
King,
Here.
Hunt,
Here.
Smoka,
Here.
Shupai,
Here.
Wong.
Here.
The mission of School District 15 is to produce world-class learners by building a connected learning community. Dr. Johnson?
This evening, we're going to be led in the pledge by students from the task team at Marion Jordan. And to introduce those students, tell us a little about it, is the assistant principal, Mrs. Shostachuk.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Thompson, President Shupai, members of our school board, and members of our community. Thank you for offering us the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Joanna Shostachuk. I am the assistant principal at Marion Jordan School. I brought a very special group of students with me who participate in one of the many clubs and activities we offer at Marion Jordan. Our student task team is an extension of our school's PBIS Expect, Respect initiative. The team stands for The Assertive Skills Kids. Their focus is to help all students at Marion Jordan become more assertive in standing up to disrespectful behavior if it presents itself. Our school-wide signal focuses on students telling someone to stop bothering them, turn and walk away, and tell an adult only if the disrespectful behavior continues. Students at Marion Jordan refer to our universal signal as the 3 T's: tell, turn, and talk. We have several students here with us who represent our student task team, who I would like to proudly introduce. Anya Bhatia, Nathan Delaney, Izzy Aminier, Rylan Galloway, Dominic Kubasic, Emily Boudreau, and Ashrita Kumar. I also brought with me 3 special Marion Jordan teachers who help facilitate our student task team on a regular basis. 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Falkenberg, 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Hoopman, and 2nd grade teacher, Ms. Rude. I know I provided you guys with a brief overview of our task team, but it is always much more interesting to have the students demonstrate what they know. So we're going to do a little quick role playing for you this evening.
We have Nathan, who will be playing a recess bully. We have Isabella, who will be the victim of recess bullying. And then we have Anya portraying an upstander, someone who looks out for a victim that's experiencing bullying at recess.
Okay, stand closer.
Why'd you blue, you smurf?
Stop, Nathan. Hey, that wasn't very nice. Can you please apologize to her?
Sorry, Izzy.
Thank you, boys and girls. And now, if you could all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be wonderful. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I have pens for you, light up pens from the board, but I wanted just to say one thing before I give you those pens, and that is to thank Mrs. Shostachuk. She has been working extremely hard this year, covering for the principal that's been out. Ms. Boker has limited days. She's been there to help, but Joanna has picked up the bulk of a lot of extra work, and really appreciate all your hard work and energy that you put into the school this year to keep things going smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
Thanks for what you do. Thanks for coming. Good work. Good job. Good work. Thanks. Thanks for coming tonight. Good work. Nice role playing. Good work. You too. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is to recognize some musical students and their accomplishments. And to do that, I'm going to ask Dr. Tom Edgar to come up and to introduce both sets of kids that are going to get recognized for their accomplishments.
All right. Good evening. My name is Linda Sullivan. I'm the band teacher at Pleasant Hill and Whiteley School, and I get some of the Marion Jordan kids as well. And I'm pleased to introduce Ashley, who did a flute solo and received a perfect score. She's a 5th grader, awesome young lady, and Senna could not be here tonight. So that's all that hard work that they put into performing and really working on their music above and beyond.
If you wouldn't mind killing along the line here so we can get everyone in. Just keep going along. All right. Okay, so good evening, everybody. So President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the board, members of the community. Our first recognition is a very special one. So this February of this year, District 15 had 220 solos and ensembles performed at the annual Illinois Grade School Music Association contest. Now, this contest was held at Winston Campus Junior High, and our students did a terrific job representing our district's music program. These students spent many hours working with their band, orchestra, or choir teacher, and spent many hours practicing at home to perfect their piece of music. Now, out of these solos and ensembles, our students had 20 perfect scores, a very rare event, very exciting. Congratulations to all these hardworking students. But before we go through applause, we'd like to take a moment to have each teacher recognize their school, introduce themselves and introduce their students so we can have kind of everybody recognized. And then we will talk about the final piece of this before we conclude and go on to the next musical celebration that we have. So let's see here. Yeah, one more time.
One more time. So this is Ashley, an awesome flute player who got a perfect score and is a 5th grader at Pleasant Hill School. And Senna was not able to join us tonight.
Hi, I'm Dave Wilkie. I'm at Carl Sandburg Junior High. And this is Elaine. She played a mallet solo and got a perfect score.
Hi, I'm Julie Quitchow, an orchestra director at 3 buildings in our district. I have with me Evangeline, who is an awesome violinist, but also a pianist, and she got a perfect score on her piano solo.
Hello, I'm Peter Panagakis, the orchestra director at Paddock and Pleasant Hill. Isabella got a perfect score on her piano solo, and as well as Allison from Paddock, Isabella from Pleasant Hill.
Hi, I'm Mario Mangiolo from Plum Grove Junior High. We have a saxophone duet, and that's Yui and Isabel. A flute duet with Sahitia and Veda. A euphonium solo, Kai. A snare drum solo, Arvin. Euphonium and trumpet duet, Kento and Ray. And another duet, but her partner couldn't be here, and that's Nishika.
Hi, I'm Ann Olson from Sunling, and I'd like to introduce these three ladies who are part of a quartet that did a vocal number at IGSMA and got a perfect score. This is Sanjana B. and Nivi and Claire, and then Marie is out of the country at the moment, so they're fourth girl. And this is...
Hello, I'm Jennifer Lee Stewart, and I'm the orchestra director at Sunling Junior High, and Marion Jordan. I would like to present you Brighton, who got a perfect score from Marion Jordan for his snare drum solo, Frank from Sunling on his trombone solo, and our string quartet from Sunling, Sahana, Laura, Peter, and Brianna.
So just taking a moment to recognize the very special accomplishments of these children. As someone who attempted to learn a musical instrument at one time, it's just amazing what you guys have been able to do and the skills you've been able to develop. So congratulations.
Come on down, I've got a light up pen for you. It's kind of exciting.
Just in case you have to make notes on music while you're playing in the dark.
Thanks for coming. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you for coming tonight.
What a great
Nicely done.
Congratulations.
Great job, Barb.
Almost died when my kids tried to learn
Good
the
to
order,
see
you know. It's like,
Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations. Thank you.
Hey there. Thanks for coming.
Good job. Really proud of you. Congratulations. Thank you. Nice job.
Feeling like everyone's turning.
Keep up the good work. Keep
I feel the same.
Thanks for coming. Good job.
yeah, this right here is just fine. Perfect.
Congratulations. Good job. Nice job. Wish I could have heard it. Thank you. Good job.
So our next recognition is some Plum Grove musicians. So we have 3 students here who participated in the Illinois All Junior Band. The Illinois All Junior Band is a premier musical experience for the state's finest middle school band students. Membership in the All Illinois Junior Band is solely determined through competitive recorded blind auditions. This year there were 285 student auditions for 82 spots. Plum Grove students had 5 spots, and 3 musicians were chosen to participate on Friday, February 8th and February 9th. The students participated in a festival held at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. They were escorted by their parents for the 2 days and invited to attend the concert taking place at the Krannert Center for the Performing Arts. It's a world-class performance venue. The teacher here can recognize them. I think you have yeah, here you go.
Mario, if you'd like to use the podium, you can use the podium.
First, we have Kurt, who played 4th chair trumpet. Jiwoo, who sat 8th chair flute. And Hannah, who sat 1st chair flute and also played piccolo. And one more time, a big congratulations to all 3 on their fabulous accomplishment.
82 slots, and you three got one of them. That's pretty impressive. 82 statewide. That's pretty cool. Kurt, nice job. Thank you. Nice job. Thank you very much. Good job. Well, that is fun. It's nice to recognize those students, and as Tom said, it's quite an accomplishment. I'm sure there are lots of hours of practicing going into that. I'm going to jump up one part of my section right now, and we're going to recognize an adult who has done something extraordinary. And I'd like Mr. Bramley to come up and talk a little bit about John Peterson.
Good evening, President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the board. I wish to introduce tonight one of District 15's unsung heroes, Mr. John Peterson. Mr. Peterson actually went to school in District 15. He attended Central Road. He attended Carl Sandburg and graduated from Rolling Meadows High School. John's career in District 15 started in 1989 when he was the night custodian at Central Road School. The following year, 1990, he transferred to the Transportation Department as the utility driver. He was promoted to the apprentice mechanic in 1992, promoted to mechanic in 1994. His last promotion was to shop foreman, which took place in 2008, and it's a position he's held for over 11 years. For all his work and dedication in supervising the maintenance of all District 15's 196 vehicles, clearing of snow and ice in bad weather, keeping our 162 buses moving in the frigid temperatures that we've held, I would like to put him forward for the above and beyond.
John, I know that you've been doing this for 11 years, and a lot of the work you've been doing has not been recognized. We've had a very successful run of all those buses, over 10,000 kids a day, millions of miles that have been put on those buses, and you kept them going. But this winter, with the vortex, was more challenging than ever, and that's why we like to put you with this above and beyond pin that not too many people have gotten. And I also have a little Sunday magazine flyer from 1966. Were you around then? No. But this is a cute little drawing of the maintenance department, and I'd like you to remember this and wear this pin proudly. Thank you for all you do. The next item in my section is a presentation by Colleen Mullins regarding our new literacy curriculum materials.
Sorry.
By the way, just so you should know, it seems like it's that time of the year. Dr. Schnorr is not here because her daughter is receiving an honor for her musical talents at her school tonight, so that's why she's not here.
It's coming. Good evening. Dr. Shupai. That one's new.
No, they didn't. You can look in.
Colleen, is
Stop.
that mic on? Is that blue light down at the bottom?
Thank you. Good evening. President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the board, and members of the school community. I am thrilled to be here this evening because I'm going to share with you some exciting things that have been happening within the world of literacy instruction in the district and some recommendations for where we head next. There's so many things I want to be able to share with you. I'm going to be talking through some things. If there's anything at any time that you have any questions about, please just jump in and ask. I know we'll have some question time at the end as well, but as we're going through this, please let it be a conversation as we go through. What we're going to be talking about is English language arts materials, or now what we refer to as comprehensive literacy instruction materials. Currently, we are using a number of resources that are either supplemental that we have purchased over the years or materials that were adopted in 2002 Harcourt trophies for our K-6 literacy instruction. What we have done in the past years is worked on literacy assessment. We've worked on our workshop model, and a workshop model is just what you would think it is. If you think of shop class, if you think of old-fashioned home ec, it's where we learn something and we practice most of the time. It's how learners learn. So we have been working on building structures and frameworks. But what we needed was strong resources in order to do that well for both teachers and students. So what I'm going to talk with you about tonight is what we have found to be, and we are currently piloting, our resources called Fountas and Pinnell Classroom that support both our teachers and our students to achieve and grow in literacy in the way that each one of us wants for every one of our students. So if we think about what we want from comprehensive literacy instruction, first and foremost, we want instructional coherence, meaning what are we doing across one grade level? Is each student in a school, in a grade across the district, learning the same literacy skills, strategies, and proficiencies? Are we coherent also in across grade levels? Are we building upon everything we're learning from year to year? Are we being responsive? And the easiest way to think of responsive instruction is, are we teaching reading or are we teaching readers? When we're teaching readers, we adjust and we adapt within the context of what we're teaching. We talk a lot about differentiation. What we want to be able to do is make it seamless for teachers to differentiate for the students in their classrooms. Responsive teaching lets that happen. A multi-text approach. How do students have access to rich texts that are well above what they would be reading on their own, but are read to them, just like we read to little ones at home? How do we increase their vocabulary, their language? How do we give them a wide variety of experiences from the world around them? How do we have experiences where we read with them? How do we make sure they're reading every day? So how do they have access to rich books, rich texts every day for every reader? Not just some, not just those that we're teaching kind of to the middle, which we've done in the past, but a multi-text approach that reaches everyone and elevates every learner. Student inquiry. Students should be asking more questions than answering them. That's when we have the most growth. Language-based. Everything in literacy is language-based. Everything ever written, read, spoken, everything is language. A stop sign is someone thinking, I want you to stop here. You need to be safe. So it needs to be language rich, and it needs to increase the language of every learner. It doesn't matter if English is your first language or if another language is your first language. A language-rich literacy experience is where you have the most sustainable growth. It also needs to really help with teacher expertise. Not fix anything. Nothing needs to be fixed, but in elementary especially, reading is what we do. But yet we don't support teachers in that in our college preparatory programs. In other things, they get a little bit of reading, yet reading is for learning. It's not a subject of its own like science and social studies. So this is what we want for every school, every student. When we think about materials, we want to make sure that they are the highest quality. I've been, around a little while. I'm over 20-something years now in education, and I've been through a few standards changes. The pendulum swings, as they talk about in education. You want resources that will adjust as the pendulum swings. You make adjustments to what you accentuate or what you focus on a little bit more or focus on a little bit less, but it shouldn't be that everything goes by the wayside because one thing changes. Reading proficiency has never changed. Standards may adjust, but what it looks like to be a proficient reader and writer, we've known forever. We want to make sure that the quality of materials will sustain us through changes that happen in education no matter what. That it is student-centered. And the best way to answer that is are they resources that were made for students or for the buyers? Is it something that students are going to want to be reading? Is it something that students are going to grow from and not just to a checklist of an adoption, by what the district is looking at? Is it authentic? Are they real? Are they things that we'd see around the world and see in our libraries and see in a bookstore as you're walking through? Are they culturally and linguistically diverse? Do our students see themselves? Do we also learn about the world around us? Does it enrich our experience as a global community? Are they plentiful and engaging? Because a few good books is never going to do it. You need many. The more books we have, the stronger our readers are. And is it highly supportive yet respectful for teachers? What that means is, do we enhance and empower teachers more without saying, you have to do it this way? It takes what the teachers have, their expertise, and builds upon it and makes them stronger. So this is what we were looking for. When we looked at resources, we looked at Fountas and Pinnell Classroom and found that what they bring to life is what we want for students and for our literacy educators every day. I'm not going to read through the vision and values, but I want to point out a few key words to you in this. Cohesive, which we talked about. Authentic. Intellectual curiosity. Language and literacy. Enjoyment. Imagine that. Students actually want to read every day. Parents are excited that their students, their children, want to read every day. Reading, thinking, talking. Again, the key words every day. Culturally sensitive, diversity, perspective. And for teachers, we want evidence-based. We want expert decision-making, and it's not planning that is the strength of teaching, it's what we do at the point that a student needs us, that's the strength. Collective responsibility, every student is everyone's responsibility. Members of a community with a common vision, common goals, common language. How do we know when we're talking with one school community that they're talking about the same things in literacy that another is? If a parent moves, if a family moves from one school to the next, all of that language and common values and vision is still the same across the district. We have an unwavering commitment to our own professional growth. When we think about teaching and learning, it's not about the teacher knowing everything, it's about the teacher facilitating this great thinking. When we think about when people want to hire employees, no one says, what do you know? They say, what do you do? How do you communicate? How do you problem solve? How do we create this world, both our teachers and our students, that is happening? Literacy, sometimes we think of skills, phonics, word lists. That's not what it is. It's how we build, construct meaning, and communicate. Literacy is what really helps us to truly give all of our students a phenomenal life, close the achievement gap, which we know we need to close. But how do we do it in a way that really helps teachers to do it easily? To feel that, and I don't mean easily meaning simple and just reading from a lesson guide. I mean empower them to reach every student every day. We do that through that responsive literacy teaching design. So right now we are using this design across our district. In our bilingual classrooms, last year we looked at Okapi materials which support this same design. So the framework is not unique to Fountas and Pinnell Classroom. The framework is best practice. The resources help us bring that to life. So we currently have Okapi materials from Okapi Publishing in our dual language and our bilingual classrooms, and now we're bringing Fountas and Pinnell into our regular ed classrooms. Right now for K3 we're going to be talking, but we're going to talk about the plan for K6 and where we go for 7 and 8. We're starting with reading. We will be moving into phonics and word study to incorporate that, and then writing. So what parents will see over time is that we are going to start with what we're doing in reading with independent reading, whole group reading. What they're going to be seeing in phonics and word study is a continuation of Words Their Way, which parents are familiar with. That will be moving to phonics and word study within the Fountas and Pinnell Classroom, which aligns with all of the other components. When that is established, we'll be moving into writing. Why not do everything at once? When you slow down, borrowing from Dr. Bardini, when we slow down, we speed up. Making shifts in literacy education is very hard to do because we are all readers and writers, and we have to get inside of it in order to teach it. So what we need to be doing as we make these changes is making shifts in practice as well as bringing in new resources. So when we think about what we're changing with practice, these are things that have been around for a long time, but what we are doing is strengthening how we use them and the precision in which we use them. For whole group teaching, every student experiences interactive read aloud. That again is where I am reading a text with students. This is grade level text, standards based. Every student sees this every day. Shared reading in large text, big books. Think of it as lap reading with little ones, that they love to get into the text, they see where everything is happening. Mini lessons is where you teach towards ownership. It's where I would say to a student, this is how this book works. When you're reading on your own, try this. For example, when you're reading, if you pay attention to what the character is saying, it's going to make the book more interesting because you're going to know why they're thinking what they're thinking. That is the precision in which many lessons occur. Many lessons include even how to pick a book, where to get books, phonics, spelling, and word study lessons. This is not about spelling lists. This is about knowing how words work. You know that the last time I was here, we talked about the spelling bee, the amazing knowledge that the students have about words. So it's not about learning words, it's about learning how to learn words. And it's also, though, having that core phonics base, which we know we need. It used to be a whole language, and then phonics came around, and then other things. We need all of it. That's where the comprehensive piece comes in. The small group teaching is where we talk about guided reading, book clubs. Guided reading is where we hear levels, student levels, book levels. Fountas and Pinnell are associated with levels. This is not about levels. Levels are for teachers. If we could never tell another parent a student's level, I would be thrilled, because all we know is it goes from A to Z. All we know is A is the lowest, Z is the highest, and what does that even mean? The leveling is just a way that I pick the right book from the book room to work with a group in guided reading. Leveling does not fit into the rest of my day. When I'm independently reading, it's like I go to the library, I pick out any book I want. It's not about a level. So when we're thinking about guided reading, we're building proficiencies, book clubs, rich book clubs, just like we have as adults with book clubs. Independent learning. How do they read more every day? How does every student have a book in their hands that they want to read and they can read? Without these different scaffolds and experiences, we don't teach towards independence. Students do school, they learn school, they do things for an assignment, a grade, but it doesn't become who they are. So when we see this within Fountas and Pinnell classroom, we look at the materials. What we know is there needs to be an abundance. The lesson plans need to support teachers in a way that is, again, respectful and strong. When we invest in materials, when we invest this amount of money, it needs to make us better just by using it. Never mind all the other supports that come with it. It needs to help us to elevate ourselves, not because something isn't working, but because we know more now. When we know more, we do more. There are a number of resources. There are books for students, resources for teachers, online resources for teachers, professional development supports. When we think about resources in classrooms, we look at interpretation and implementation. When they are used as designed, how strong will it be? If everyone has this in their hands, we need to do work to make sure that it doesn't turn back into something that we think we believe is right as we're changing, but that it supports you. But what it should happen is, from our newest teachers to our most veteran, that they have the level of support that they need, and that's what it provides. Speaking of books, books, and more books, the amount of stuff is enormous. For kindergarten alone, interactive read aloud, there are 120 titles per classroom. They are in book sets. They are in ways that we explore different themes, different concepts. We have big books, and every big book, 65 of them, they have 6 small books that the students can reread. We have 150 trade books for independent reading. This is in every single classroom. For guided reading, which are shared across the grade level, there are 200 titles of 6-packs, 1,200 books. Book clubs, 32 different trade books. Now, trade books are the books that you would see in Barnes & Noble, on Amazon. The books that are created for big books and for guided reading are created from the publisher, but with true, like, children's authors that have written them. The number of different titles in kindergarten alone, 567. One classroom in 1 year, I have access to 567 rich, wonderful books. The number of books, 2,117. Now, if you think like I do, the thought of that coming into our district, the thought of that many books, the thought of barcoding, which we are really being fiscally responsible and making sure that everything is inventoried and we know where everything goes and we look at how sections open and close. You know in the staffing reports that happens. How do we manage this and how are we responsible? We're working with a company that will help us to sticker, label, inventory, and then deliver to the schools. I will be coming back to you. It will be probably in the next board report about the cost of that. And Mike Adamczyk, we have talked about that being in the adoption pricing. it's really important that as we invest in this, that we know, aside from the cost of doing business where we lose a book here and there, we should be able to maintain this for a number of years with the pricing that we're doing. So this year, we have piloted Fountas and Pinnell Classroom K-3. We have done it in one grade level in each one of our 15 elementary schools, except for Kimball Hill. We have done it in all 4 K, 1, 2, and 3 to look at the school-wide model of implementation. It is a scaffolded implementation. That means that we have taken each context, interactive read aloud, then shared reading, then mini lessons workshop with independent reading. We have taken each one and implemented them through professional learning cycles. The materials were delivered as we launched a professional learning cycle. The teachers had the time to focus on that one thing. What that enables it to do, success builds success. It enables the teachers and the students to build that confidence and that practice. You know, as they say, it becomes a habit when you practice it more. The principals have been a key piece in this, and they have supported the goals. Like, for example, in interactive read aloud, we said 15 minutes is the goal. That's how long it takes. About 3 different interruptions in the book where you have conversations. Increasing student talk. Those are the 3 practice goals that we've set forth. We have lead learners in the schools, and lead learners could be instructional coaches, district coordinators, or reading consultant specialists that have supported this implementation of coaching the teachers through this change. When we do this, when we do a scaffolded implementation, one thing it diminishes is the implementation dip, that many times happens with new programs. When you put something new in and you take away what people felt confident in, you many times see a drop in data. We're hoping that when you have a professional learning cycle and scaffolded implementation, that it minimizes that implementation dip. It is school-based embedded coaching. It is happening with their students in their schools, and in a way that is, at first, honestly, teachers didn't like it. They wanted all of the materials at once. We can do this. We've done this for years. We've taught literacy for years. But the way in which they have felt successful has been monumental, and it has been something that I will just point out, the literacy team is here because they are so excited about what has been happening that they wanted to make sure that they were here to share the excitement, because there's nothing better than when every student, no matter if it is our most proficient readers to our least experienced, to it is our newcomers to our students, that everyone feels successful, and when teachers feel empowered, it's fun. And I want to take a minute to actually show you what that looks like. So Morgan Delac, in her amazing brilliance and skill, has helped us create a video to give you a sampling of what's been happening this year. So this is after 3 professional learning cycles. We have done interactive read aloud, shared reading, and then we started mini lessons with the independent reading. So when you're looking at what teachers are doing and students are doing, you're going to see that the small group instruction, which has been happening all along, it just hasn't shifted to Fountas and Pinnell Classroom yet. They're going to be talking about mostly the whole group instructional context. Fountas and Pinnell Classroom is a comprehensive literacy program with resources and text for students that ensures that every student enjoys reading, speaking, listening, writing, and word study every day. This year we are piloting Fountas and Pinnell Classroom in 1 grade level, K-3, in every elementary school in our district.
Tell me what your first name is. Annalise. I like reading.
I think this is probably, in all my years of teaching, like the most positive approach and most interactive way for kids to really talk about books.
This brings all of the pieces that we have been working on for years with best practice into tangible pieces that teachers are using day to day and students are enjoying. It enables us to ensure that students are exposed to rich, diverse, and high-level texts, books that they love to read, that they are challenged with, and it supports teachers with the thinking that helps them to provide these opportunities with their students.
We weren't teaching to comprehend. comprehend. I wasn't teaching to comprehend. I didn't know how to teach to comprehend. And now this program has taught me and obviously helped the kids so much. So yeah, we're definitely doing stuff that's for the better.
The main way I've changed since I've started Autism Panel Classroom is that I'm enjoying teaching more. I love the mini lessons myself. I don't mind staying after school and getting some things ready because I know my kids are going to really enjoy the book. They're going to enjoy our time together. And they're just going to flourish.
I've seen a big change in my students. In the past, students would answer one-word answers or give me a short sentence of an answer when I asked them to tell me about a book or explain something about a book. And now students can hold a conversation. They can dialogue back and forth with a peer about a book, give their opinion.
Every time I say we're going to do a mini lesson, if we're going to do an interactive read aloud, we're going to do a big book, my kids cheer. And it's just a joy to see. It's definitely a difference between last year's kindergartners and this year's kindergarten with the interactive and shared reading. We really have much richer discussions about our books. I think they feel empowered. They are able to interact. They're able to read it with me. They feel successful and they enjoy reading.
It was probably the best role, like I said, that I've experienced, and I feel very successful with it. And I truly feel like I understand each piece of the program and why it's there.
Also, I like the back because it has like all that stuff.
Autism Panel Classroom has been a great experience for not only my students but also myself. Teaching reading is fun. It's fun for me and for the kids, and we are enjoying the journey together.
When we look at that and we hear some things, what we have done historically in education is that we have tested comprehension versus teaching it. We have someone read and say who, what, when, why. But we actually have to teach students how to construct meaning. So when we say we've never taught comprehension, we've all done what we've been trained to do. But as we know better, we do better. And this gives us an opportunity to make sure that 20 years from now, when these students, are out in, I don't know what video that is, but all I know is that I didn't pick it, so I always get nervous if I'm on YouTube. I just want to. Okay, now I'm in. So let me just start the next presentation if I could. When we talk about things, it's not that we were doing anything wrong. It's that when we know more, when we have new research, when we look at things and say it's not about doing school, it's not about taking tests and reading, it's about living a literate life. And that's what our world calls for now. It's not about facts, it's about thinking. And the only way to understand and build that way of thinking is through talk, through dialogue, through writing, not because I have to write a response to something, but to write because that's how I extend my thinking. So the goal of this really is to make sure that every student, every single day, in every classroom, in every school, feels successful and shows growth. Our strongest readers should be growing every day. Our students that are our least experienced should be growing by leaps and bounds every day. So what we are hoping to do, luckily, the publisher, this is a brand new program. So we piloted K-3 this year. Next year, we will implement K-3 across the district. We were not anticipating being able to go forward with grades 4 to 6 until the following year. The publisher has actually sped things up a little bit, so we would like to see how we can move forward a little bit faster, not so fast that everything that we're doing, which is working well, diminishes, but to possibly look at ways that we can advance a little bit more quickly with grades 4 to 6. At the same time, we're looking at junior high, which we know we are looking at a workshop model as well, but there's different resources. This elevates it for everyone. So the students leaving our elementary schools are going to be going into the junior high and expecting that great rigorous thinking and talking, and I know our junior high teachers work every day to create that. Now we need to find the resources, which we're doing now, exploring what's out there to support our junior highs as well.
Kelly, when you, the question on 4 to 6, will you then pilot 4 to 6 first, or was the pilot in K through 3 enough to just launch 4 to 6 direct?
We really believe the pilot in K-3 was strong enough because the same guiding principles, the same structures, the same materials are there. What we'd like to do is have, implement the whole group resources, the interactive read aloud and such next. This is tentative because we're trying to get all the numbers together and make sure that Mike is along with this. But we're looking at implementing it over, starting in the winter possibly with the whole group instructional pieces, and they follow the same, all the same guiding principles, the same resources, the same. So piloting it for grade 3 at K3 was the same as piloting it for 4-6. So it wouldn't, it's not designed as some programs are where they're very different for intermediate. It is intermediate appropriate, but it is very strong. It's truly one of the strongest things that I've seen out there. A lot of times we have to supplement a lot. We spend a lot of money on supplemental materials right now. What this will enable us to do is decrease that amount of spending because we will have rich resources. The amount of consumables with this is very minimal. It's readers' notebooks. So we're going to take what we now have for some other supplementals that we have in our budget year after year that are kind of stopgap measures and use those funds to support what one consumable we would have with this. So, and that would be for all grades.
Colleen, how are we going to, how are we going to bring all the teachers and staff up to speed on the new program as far as how they're going to teach it to the kids so that they actually implement it the way it's intended to be?
We're going to continue using the scaffolded implementation and professional learning cycle model. But what we are going to do is make sure that we can, this first year, it takes a little bit longer to do that. So what we're going to do is have set implementation about 6 to 8 weeks for each instructional context. For example, when we're introducing interactive read aloud, everyone in the district in those grades levels learns interactive read aloud at that time. It is supported in the schools through what I term as a lead learner, which is either an instructional coach, a district curriculum coordinator, or right now a reading consultant specialists are supporting them. So teachers will be given the materials, supported with professional development to start, and then supported in coaching in their classrooms through each cycle.
And the coaches are going to rotate from classroom to classroom because, I mean, that's a lot of classrooms to
It is.
put out. So you need a lot of coaches to do that, right? Or how many do we have?
We right now have 7 coaches, 6 in elementary and 1 in junior high. Coaching, we know, the research on coaching, instructional coaching, is enormous with student outcomes. The opportunity to increase coaching would be phenomenal. It is sometimes a challenge to hire coaches within just the realities of coaching isn't something that everyone just signs on to. It's working with adult learners. There's different criteria for the position, but we would love to increase the amount of instructional coaches that we have. I don't want to speak for everyone with this.
But we do have
We do.
people in place.
Yes.
We've got reading specialists, we've got lead learners.
Yes, we have right now we have the capacity to do this. It would be, even more amazing if we had more.
So with regard to this program or this curriculum being rolled out to non-English speakers, do we have the ability to roll out a similar curriculum or at least take the principles of this curriculum and incorporate it into our dual language into non-English classrooms as well?
That is actually what we have done before even this. So we have the workshop model, which is that whole group instruction, small group, the interactive read aloud, the shared reading. That is actually stronger, I think, right now in our bilingual and our dual language classrooms. Through Dr. Woelfel, they have kind of started this process as we've implemented dual language as well. One component that is added to that is that strong biliteracy piece. So right now in our bilingual classes, in our dual language classes, they are experiencing that same successful of independent reading, the same mini lesson approach. That whole framework is still there because, again, the framework is not solely for Fountas and Pinnell classroom. So we've supported that through the bilingual program as well. So every student in the district will have this experience.
Well, it's very exciting. This is things that will really change kids' trajectory educationally. The board oftentimes will have to spend money on roofs and other things like that, but this is something that's very exciting. So thank you for the presentation tonight and for the information and for the good work. We look forward to hearing more about this in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time and for considering this. Very exciting.
All right, the next item in my section is a presentation from Mr. Demchek regarding, and Ms. Nuss, regarding new healthcare rates.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson, President Chupai. Mike and I are excited to be here today. I know that there's probably a disconnect between the word excitement and presenting health insurance rates, but we are very excited. Mike is going to, at the end, talk about some numbers, but I want to give some historical background that are really important to lead to the numbers that we have. I think first and foremost, it's really important to thank our insurance committee. We're really proud of the work that we've done over the last couple of years. We have representatives from our teachers union, as well as Mike and myself, and then Francine Mueller, who's our benefits specialist, which I just learned this week that she was asked to serve on Blue Cross's Blue Shield's HMO consultant team, like to advisory committee, which is a great honor. We're really lucky to have Francine. She's been with us for quite a long time, and she's a great resource. And we also have our benefit consultants, which is GCG Financial, and that's kind of where our story starts. I've been on our insurance committee for well over the last decade, and I'd say prior to GCG coming on, our renewal was always the same conversation. Insurance rates are going up, and what are we going to do to contain or minimize those? And the answer was always reducing or eliminating some sort of benefit from our plan. And so right around 2014, when we got GCG, there was actually, we spent a lot of time that year talking about different ideas, the vast majority of which we never went with. However, it really opened up the conversation to look at, insurance is a huge part of our budget, so we have this huge financial component, but the benefits that it supplies our employees, not only to attract but maintain them and just the wellness during the course of their employment, is equally as important. So those conversations, although the specifics of those never came to fruition, it got us talking about there's got to be a way to look at maintaining our costs, not having these outrageous insurance increases, and not decreasing benefits. So we actually, that next year, we got 3 new people from GCG that we've worked with ever since. We have a really great team from GCG, and we want to talk about some of those things we put in place. And when Mike talks about the numbers, I think we're most proud is that we haven't diminished benefits for our employees, and we've maintained a really tight grasp. Most years we're far under market, under trend for insurance increases. So back in 2014, one of the first things we put in was we had a HMO plan that was fully funded. We paid a certain amount of money to Blue Cross and Blue Shield that administered the plan, and what we realized is that the utilization of that plan was at about 85%. So that 15% that we were paying just was pocketed by Blue Cross and Blue Shield. It was a part of them, taking the exposure to that plan. So we said, if we self-fund that plan, that 15% comes back to us. So that was the first thing that we did. We implemented that, and we've realized savings from that change. Our teachers, our employees saw no difference. They didn't even know that was done. The only people that knew were the board and our insurance committee. Then we had a lot of conversations those next few years were really, really intense about what kinds of things we could do. And we've gone down a lot of different rabbit holes, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. But here are some that have really worked since that time. So in 2016, we've really focused on our pharmaceuticals. Those are really the area where you see dramatic cost increase over the last 3 years. I don't think you need to be even well-versed on insurance to know that that's an issue nationwide. So what we did is we were using Prime Therapeutics through Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which just a change to CVS Caremark has realized tremendous savings. We started with savings of over 300,000, and each year our rebates that we get back, Mike is thrilled every time we get these checks that come back. This year we're up to rebates of over 665,000, and we're only 3/4 of the way through the year. We also instituted some other management programs to make sure that doctors are prescribing drugs that fit what they need. I won't go through the details of those, but that was a realization of about $300,000 every year. We also had heard from our employees that said, are there other options? At the time, 2017, we had 3 options for what they can choose for an insurance plan, and people were looking for some lower cost options. Not that we would force anyone to take it, but having an option that had a lower premium for family insurance. So at that time, we added a third plan on our HMO. The great thing about being in Blue Cross and Blue Shield's network is there's lots of doctors to go to. So this HMO C plan has a smaller network, but most of the doctors are in our area anyway, so there wasn't a lot of change for people who chose to go to the less expensive plan, which was Plan C. And then we also added a high deductible plan, which realized us savings as well. The following year, we added something called MD Live. This is a really neat addition. It's a benefit where it has a list of diagnoses that you could call in for. So things, I'm going to use the easy one for people who work in schools, and that's pink eye. You usually know when you have it, but you have to get a prescription for it. You just can't go to the pharmacy and pick something up. So instead of taking a day off work and going to your doctor, what you do is you call in, you give your symptoms, and they can prescribe over the phone. And that is something that has been a benefit for our employees as well. We also put into place something called a CRX pharmacy program. It's only on our PPO end, and what it is that U.S. Congress has deemed things as Tier 1. Other countries have Tier 1 pharmaceuticals, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And if you have a prescription off of this set list of prescriptions we could access from these countries, it's like a mail-in program. And what you do is you get this script from your doctor, you do a mail-in, and how we encourage our employees to use that is that there's zero cost. You don't have to pay your pharmacy copay. And how we realize the savings, it is dramatically cheaper when those reoccurring prescriptions come through these sources. This is really at its infancy. We're trying to market it, but we've already started to realize the savings from this plan. We also had seen over the course of years big dips, like peaks and valleys, when we looked at HMO versus PPO. PPO would go up, HMO would go down. HMO would go up, PPO would go down. So we unified those so that it's really one renewal rate that is evened out. So it doesn't matter what plan you're on, you're going to have the same increase. We saw some of that skipping back and forth between plans, and it really just wasn't, we'd always get people happy when theirs went down, and then another group of people that were unhappy when their plan went up, so we unified those rates. Right now, we're still looking at our dental plan. We think that we may have some other cost savings that we could potentially implement in January, and if not, we're looking at those for next year. So this insurance team, I like to say it again, that I'm super proud of not only to be a part of or working with people that are very open-minded. We have lots of discussions on how to best suit the needs of our employees, not only physically and mentally, but financially as well. One thing that was something that we weren't expecting that came up is years ago, back in 1996, there was something called the Mental Health Parity Act. It was a federal law that went into play that made plans cover mental wellness and like substance abuse at the same rate as the rest of your insurance plan. As a self-funded plan, our PPO was always self-funded, we were grandfathered through. We did not have to meet that benefit. So come January 1, there was legislation passed through Governor Rauner at the time, and we're no longer eligible for that exemption. We're not grandfathered through, which that was actually one of the benefits we were looking at. We've heard from our employees that our substance abuse and mental health coverage wasn't as robust as they would have liked to see it. And when this came to our attention, we knew that we really didn't have to look at options. We were just put it in with the rest of our plan. Mike and I were really happy. We weren't quite sure how it would affect the renewal. There was some, sweating it out for a few weeks to see the impact, and it was about a little over 0.5%. And then Mike will talk about renewal rates and show that how that's compared with trend in other industries.
Yeah, so this is a slide from PricewaterhouseCoopers, a national accounting and consulting firm, and we can see medical trend has fallen substantially over the years, going back to 2007. When I came to the district in 2010, I was a member of the insurance committee, and Lisa was on the other side of the table, and she would always harass me and give me a hard time and say, Mike, why are you budgeting 9% in your 5-year forecasts? Because I said medical trend running 9 or 10%, which it was. I mean, if we go back to 2007, we were 11.9%, and going back to, if we look at 2010, 2011, we're 9%. I mean, we were 9.2 in 08, 9% in 10, 9% in 11, fell off a little bit, but if you look back at old 5-year forecasts I did, I always had 10% in there. And that's when Lisa and I would always have those discussions. We never, as a district, ever hit that high. We've always done better than trend. But nonetheless, that was our baseline for basing our figures on that. And as you can see, it's now really stabilized at 6%. So that's medical trend. So when we have our healthcare committee meetings and we meet with GCG, usually the first thing GCG says, well, medical trend is 6%. So, expect an increase next year of 6% because that's what trend is. And then we get into the negotiations and discussing, how District 15's plan is different and with all the different enhancements or changes that Lisa and us has talked about, why we don't hit trend. And as you go back and you look at it, and these are our audited financial statements from our ISB financial report through 2018, you can see the numbers have fluctuated a lot. I mean, we've gone down 3.7%, up 3.3, down 4.8. And then we have the national medical cost trend in the last column, which are the same numbers that we saw on the previous slide. But our average increase over that 8-year period has only been 2.4%, whereas national medical cost trend has averaged 6.6%. For 2019, our increase 6.8%, about $20.5 million. I will tell you, we won't hit that number. Why won't we hit that number? Because we also have stop loss insurance, reinsurance. And there's a timing difference. So our stop loss insurance is $250,000 per claim. If somebody's really sick, they may go over that. So we pay the first $250,000, goes to reinsurance, we get a rebate. Well, our plan year is July 1 through June 30th. So the cost may be incurred right from July 1 to June 30th. We might not get that rebate check until the next fiscal year or next 2 fiscal years down. We had another health insurance or reinsurance carrier through 2018. We switched for this year, 2019, and we've received stop loss refunds of almost $900,000 this year. So that, coupled with, we've had actually, our experience has been running below what we budgeted it would be. So that $20.5 million, unless we have really, really bad months in April, May, and June, because we know what our March numbers are, we won't hit $20.5 million. We'd have to have horrendous months. There's just really no way we'll hit that. And that's part of it. And that goes into the consideration too when we look at the renewals for next year. So our renewal rate for next year is 4.6%. 4.8, I'm sorry, it's 4.8%. Based on all those factors, we think that's a good renewal. Again, it's under trend, so I think that's positive. We're also switching reinsurance carriers again for next year because our current carrier, although we only had them for one, gave us a 45% increase for next year. So we just said that's not acceptable, so we're going to another reinsurance carrier for next year. And hopefully that will save us some money as well. So all in all, I mean, when we look, I look at that and think, wow, in 2011 we spent $17 million on health insurance, and that's a district cost. That's the net of what the employees pay. Through 2019, I'm going to say that's about $1 million high. We're only at 19.5. So I think, to Mrs. Nuss's comments earlier, the great relationship we have with the CTC and working with GCG, our benefits consultant, I think we've really done a fantastic job in keeping the costs low and, to Lisa's point, not diminishing the level of benefits to the employees.
The
compounding effect of the difference there, that 2.4 versus the 6.6 over that time period, would be like 46 basis points. So that's huge in terms of the savings to the members.
Well, kudos go to the insurance committee, to Mike and Lisa for all the hard work and creative thinking, the access to consultants, working with the CTC leadership. I mean, they've really done an excellent job. This could have gotten a little out of hand if we hadn't addressed things and addressed them in a significant way. We are fortunate that we've got healthy employees. You know, teachers tend to be have better lifestyles than the general public, but they've done a great job keeping our rates low, and I think they're asking you tonight to approve the new rates of just a 4.8% increase for the upcoming insurance year. The election period is in May, and so everybody needs to get the rates and to make a decision about what plan they're going to select in May or beginning in July.
And just for clarification, all bargaining unit members are that tied back to CTCs, correct?
Yes, they have what's called a Me Too clause in other contracts that say they get the same benefit.
Anything else? Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Next item in my section is the presentations by the School Improvement Planning presentations from Joanna Shostachuk and Michael Scaletta from Frank C. Whiteley. Would you two come up, please?
I appreciate you offering me the opportunity to highlight some of the amazing work we focused on this school year related to our school improvement process. Marion Jordan may be one of the smallest elementary schools in District 15, but very unique in its own right. Can I just click? Okay, perfect. Just to give you a little background about Marion Jordan Elementary, in addition to our kindergarten through 6th grade general education classrooms and our academically gifted and talented program, we house 7 self-contained special education classrooms for District 15, 6 of which focus on supporting students on the autism spectrum and 1 classroom that supports students with social emotional needs. Having all the various classrooms and programs at Marion Jordan has truly built a culture of academic excellence, inclusion, compassion, and teamwork. I share this special information about Marion Jordan with you because when collectively looking at our school improvement process, which specifically focused on vocabulary development, we very much took on an approach that included all of our students and teaching staff down to our art, music, PE, and special education teachers. Being presented with some unique circumstances this year, we have chosen to rally together on many levels. Specifically related to our school improvement process, we agreed to pull together with the support of Dr. Tom Edgar to focus on improving how teachers teach and how students learn related to our vocabulary development initiative. We really consider this a great step forward because most of the work has come from our teaching staff themselves, and this truly speaks to the level of commitment at Marion Jordan School. Next, I'd like to just share briefly with you some specifics related to our vocabulary development initiative. As a school improvement team and staff, we chose vocabulary development as our learner-centered problem because it was identified as a less developed skill for our students when analyzing several pieces of student data across all grade levels. We feel vocabulary knowledge, and I'm sure everybody does, is very important because it encompasses all the words we must know to access background knowledge, express our ideas, communicate effectively, and learn new concepts. It is the glue that essentially holds all stories, ideas, and all learning content together. When looking at specifically what we wanted our students to learn related to vocabulary, we focused on 3 areas. 1, we wanted students to be able to create a student-friendly definition. Secondly, we wanted students to be able to use specific vocabulary words in a sentence. And lastly, we wanted students to be able to come up with a similar word by noting a synonym. When thinking about developing our students' vocabulary, we also realized that it needed to be multifaceted and needed to include the additional demand of showing their knowledge in writing. The way that we looked at this was also relevant to all of our teaching staff regardless of their discipline in our building. In addition, we created a universal exit slip with a scoring rubric as a means of measuring our students' understanding. As you can see, I've shared a brief sample with you so that you're able to view it. Our first school-wide data collection window took place before winter break. Since then, we've had several professional development opportunities to dig deeper and analyze and interact with our data regarding the scores and information we've been able to collect on each of our students. Overall, what we've learned thus far is that our students have an easier time creating definitions and using words and sentences, but have a little bit more difficulty with constructing synonyms on their own. As we continue our work moving forward, we plan to hold one more school-wide data collection opportunity before the school year ends, using the same common assessment and rubric before the end of the school year. And as a school improvement team and staff, one of the questions that we will be looking to answer collectively is how does the information we know about our students' vocabulary development drive our instructional practices in the classroom? We plan to identify some common teaching strategies that will strengthen our students' vocabulary knowledge within various content areas. And then when looking specifically at our data-wise process, our next steps will include just focusing on assessing our progress in hopes of continuing our work next school year. Just to kind of wrap up, I think what we're most proud of this school year is that we've really committed to sticking with our school improvement plan and really focusing on improving both teaching and learning as it relates to vocabulary development. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Joanna?
Yes, I'm sorry. Are there any questions? I apologize.
Joanna,
Yes.
Data collection opportunity, what do you guys use to collect data, just to kind of bring it full circle?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So we created a specific rubric, a scoring rubric, so our school improvement team came together. We kind of created the rubric with criteria, and then we went ahead and created a school-wide Google document where teachers were able to assess their students, score them against the rubric, and then import the data into our Google document. So we had the data available for specific grade levels, and we offered the opportunity for grade levels to look at that data, and then we collectively looked at it as a building as well. Our music, art, and PE teachers participated with specific content level data, and then all of our special education staff and teachers as well. We included our students in the gifted program too.
Thanks.
Okay. You're welcome.
Sure.
Okay, sure.
Good evening, President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the board. My name is Mike Scaletta, and I'm the principal at Frank C. Whiteley Elementary School this year. I'm excited to be here this evening to share a little bit about our school improvement planning process. Before I dive too far into that, though, I did want to share a little bit of background information about Whiteley. Whiteley is home to a diverse student body of just about 600 students. We have 3 gen ed sections of each grade, 1st through 6th. We are also proud to be home to 5 self-contained classrooms for 2 of the district's self-contained programs for students receiving specialized instruction to meet their exceptional learning needs. Furthermore, we're also happy to house 2 of the district's classrooms for the gifted and talented program, the ATG program. We have a SIP team that this year consists of 5 members: myself, Dustin Berman, our assistant principal, Patty L. Therington, our school psychologist, and then Amber Danielczak and Kim Hemingway, both gen ed teachers. So similar to all of the schools within our district, Whiteley has adopted the data-wise process for our school improvement planning. The data-wise process or system is divided into 8 steps within 3 stages. And at the beginning of our school year this year, we realized as a SIP team that we really needed to move slowly and thoughtfully as we progressed through from one stage to the next. During our initial work at the beginning of the school year and our conversations with our staff and with our team, it became clear that we really needed to take a step back and revisit step 4. Step 4 is digging into student data, and by revisiting step 4 and digging into our data a bit more, it really allowed us to engage in collaborative work and discussions, which resulted in an impactful concluding message from our staff that we really needed to reflect on our understanding of our student body, who our students really were at Whiteley right now. this conversation and the work that our team began the school year with was really timely, as we were also working through our understanding of ESSA designations and how Whiteley's ESSA designation came to be, what all is taken into consideration and how that is framed and what that really tells us about our school, our students, and our work. So also similarly to other schools throughout our district, we worked to determine a school focus for the school year. We determined two focuses. One was our social emotional learning focus and one was our academic focus. Our social emotional learning focus area for our school is to reduce the number of students who receive multiple minor office discipline referrals within any given month. The academic focus area for our school is reading comprehension. Once we developed our school focus, we really needed to frame our learner-centered priority, and through our revisiting of Step 4 and re-exploring our student data, we were able to identify and reaffirm what we had previously developed, which was that our data suggests that students do not independently demonstrate proficiency inferencing in the area of reading. So our learner-centered priority is directly connected to our academic focus area of reading. Once we developed our learner-centered priority, we were able to take our conversations and work with our staff to the next level and really begin to explore our student data specifically connected to reading performance. And we moved into beginning discussions that were connected to our practice, our instructional practice of reading, and what we came to understand, what our staff identified through our conversation and our work, was that our teachers are all doing wonderful things within our classrooms. They are utilizing evidence-based practices, and their approaches to teaching reading are wonderful, but they aren't consistent within the grade or across grades. So what's happening in teacher A's classroom and in teacher B's classroom, while both grades aren't consistent, and then moving on to the next grade level, there was also an opportunity to align a little bit better, perhaps. So we then worked to identify within our SIP team and with our staff some next steps. Our first next step is to really explore our instructional practices within and across grade levels. So after our January Institute Day, we engaged with our staff and grade levels met as teams, and they identified one common consistent practice or strategy that they could embed into their practices that would be consistent within a grade. At a staff meeting that's coming up, we are then going to share those out and present across grades, and perhaps then what's happening in one grade may be able to be adopted by another grade, and we'll be able to build some of that consistency across grades. Our second next step is to explore continued professional development to support instructional practices, and this really brings us right back to the conversation that Colleen had earlier about Fontes and Pinel Classroom. I'm really excited to know that Fontes and Pinel Classroom is going to be rolled out for grades K through 3 next year, and that the supportive and gradual release framework that was used through the rollout this year is going to be scaled up and introduce the materials and the framework and the approach to teaching reading in a consistent and evidence-based manner across grades. So the practices that will be used within grades and across grades will line up much more clearly, and it will create a consistent and connected learning experience for our students within a grade and as they progress to the next grade. So that's kind of where our work has led us this year.
Any questions for Mike Whiteley? Thank you both for a great presentation. Thanks for your hard work. Thank you. Good evening. The last item in my section is really just a report on the Boundaries Task Force and the possibility of a Park Place school. So I shared with you a statement from one of the subcommittees of the task force, and the task force has been working really hard. They are a committed group of people, and we started, I think, with over 40, but there have been a core of probably, I would say, 25 that have come to every meeting, dedicated, working in between meetings, working in subgroups in between meetings. They will be meeting twice this month. They met on the 6th, at least some of them did, and then the whole committee, the whole task force will be meeting on the 15th. And when they first started, they really wanted to get down to work and get this problem solved and make presentations by the May board meeting. And they've been working really hard at that, and they realized just recently that maybe going too fast is going to derail their process and maybe not even give it a chance to be accepted. So they have decided that they're going to extend their goal for when the presentations will be made so they can go through the process in a really thorough way, getting feedback from the community, making sure that their plans are well thought out, that they've got a strategy to share information and then to get information from the community before they come before the board. So I think what you'll probably see is sometime in the fall, August, September, that they will have concluded with their tasks of creating possible proposals for the board to consider. But one of the things that they've been working on is they, pardon me, as you recall, they sent out a survey to get community feedback on what were the priorities from the community so that they would drive any possible scenarios. And if you remember, the number one priority was really neighborhood schools, having kids go to schools as close as possible to where they live. That was the top priority the community suggested. Less time on buses, full-day kindergarten, and the second most highest rated priority that the community had was alignment of schools. That it was really bothersome to both parents and kids that they could be split up from their elementary school to go to different junior highs, and then different junior highs could be split up to go to different high schools. And for a number of reasons, it was hard for kids, but it also is hard for schools when they can't work with the school that they know all their kids are going to go to. They can articulate and work more closely with them so that the transitions are easier, more successful for kids. And so that was the number two priority. And they've been using those priorities to drive their possible scenarios. But in order to couple those things, to get kids as close as possible to their schools, to align schools with the high school, and to get full-day kindergarten, we need more classroom space. And so they are really excited about the possibility that we could continue to have discussion about a school across from Walmart at the Park Place facility. So Lisa and Frank and I have walked through the new plan. The new plan, as you've seen on your in your board packet, is to take down the old home goods store all the structure to the old Whole Foods store. And then the developer, the owner of the property, would create a play field there for our students. And then we would design the school out of the area from Whole Foods all the way to Goodwill. It's about the same square footage as we had before. And in fact, we walked through with the construction people, and they thought this area would be even easier to create a school than the other one. And it might even be a little less expensive. So we decided we needed to go to the village before we got too far down the road, because last time they were having some pretty significant issues with the transportation, the traffic patterns, and where the school was located. That they're also concerned about generating sales tax and real estate tax for their village to continue to operate. So they worked with the owner of the property and said, we might consider this if you were able to design some more attractive and vibrant retail spots on this site so that we could continue to generate some revenue, some real estate taxes, some sales tax, and then we would be considering allowing the 80,000 square feet to go to the school. So we've met with the village, and all parties involved gave it a tentative go-ahead. And so I think, as you recall, our school district is 35 square miles. 35 square miles in an area of 1.5 square miles in the northeast part of our district, in a triangle up there. 22% of our students reside, and there is no school. And so I think there are some significant benefits to considering changing that retail space into a school. It's certainly the approximation to where our students reside. So many of our students live up there. It'd be so much closer for them to go to school there. It does provide space for extra classrooms that would be needed to extend kindergarten to full day. We are excited about the possibility of a community school being up there, where most of our kids that participate in our community school now live in that northeast part of our district, and this would be so much closer. We could have more kids participate, we could have parents that had closer access and could be more involved in that process as well. So that's another benefit, and then I think it really would allow us to align our schools so that all elementaries went to the same junior high and all the junior highs went to the same high school, which would be a benefit for both the kids and the teachers and the high schools, frankly. So I think there are definitely some benefits to pursuing this. So what I'm kind of asking for you tonight is to give me an okay to enter into another real estate agreement with the owner of the property. Remember, we did that before, and then we had the due diligence period, and we backed out because it wasn't going to work. And frankly, Mike and I were concerned about the cost. So as we've contemplated things a little bit more, I think the cost is still something to be considered, but I think that the benefits could outweigh the cost. And so I kind of changed my mind a little bit about the expense, and this new plan seems to be something that could be approved by the village. So what I'd ask is that you allow me to enter into a real estate agreement with the owner, have another due diligence period, and then Mike and I would come back next month and we would really elaborate on what we anticipate the cost would be, both to change this into a school and then the ongoing associated costs with running the school, with staffing it, with operating it. So you would have then more information about the cost, and you could do a little bit more evaluation whether you determined that this was, a return on investment that you were willing to invest.
Quick question. So you mentioned that this will help us also align to our goal of keeping schools aligned to middle schools to high schools. You're thinking of this property not as a kindergarten center, right? As a grade school to do that. And that means we would combine this proposal with other boundary proposals in order to get that to happen, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. It would be a K-6 school, and it would be a part of the proposal that the Boundary Task Force brought back to you to consider later.
I think ultimately, Barb, there are a lot of moving parts with this, and it's not that necessarily it's
right.
a go.
Building one school isn't going to allow us to check all the boxes.
Right. And when we initially looked at this concept, the concept was the opportunity for classrooms for full-day kindergarten. But as Dr. Thompson said, there were some cost concerns, which was part of the decision-making to exit from that plan for all of us. But we also had some other concerns when you talked about busing children, kindergarten students from all over the district into one facility. And although there are great reasons to have a standalone early childhood center, we are such a big district, and that distance became an issue. So as we start talking about those things, it became less interesting for us to do it. It also was, as the building is today, it takes up a great deal of space, and there was going to be very little green space when we first discussed this. There would have been potentially a playground for our early childhood children to play in, but not much green space. The amendment takes down a portion of that building and allows us then to have some viable green space, which is very important. The opportunity to have a soccer field, a playground, what it takes to have a good school in a community, a place that kids can come and play after school and utilize in more ways than just as a school building. But I think, and something else that's really, really important right now that gets to your point, is that our Boundaries Committee deserves an opportunity to really take a look at what they can do to hit the community goals and not necessarily be constrained by the bricks and mortar that we currently have and trying to fit, round peg, square hole, like that. Or vice versa, square peg, round hole, one of those things. But to be able to really take a bigger view of it and see if there's a better way of doing it, that gets us very good alignment across the board.
Does the village envision the north end of this retail property remaining where the Goodwill is? Or is that something that they're talking about demolishing as well, or the north end stays?
Not at this time. It will remain a viable operation.
Yeah, I want to highlight that this new plan, proposes that this be a school that's kind of on par with our other schools as far as the facilities and the amount of space that the kids have to play in. Like, they can fit in easily, have a soccer field, baseball field, playground area, and also it's kind of highlighted on here, but also kind of providing some some division between the Walmart parking lot and the school parking lot. So it's more of like a school that's next to a shopping center as opposed to a school in a shopping center. And I think that's a really important point to make here, is that we want this to be like a school unto itself and not just, we decided to kind of like cobble something together.
That was a great suggestion, both the size of the field that you required and then the green space to separate the two spaces. I think that's great.
I think I think it's a good idea to explore it. I think in the end, we need, even to solve any of the issues that we were talking about, the full day kindergarten, we need more space, period. I know that hopefully when we get a more robust proposals from the boundary committee, we'll kind of see where they're coming from. But we know that in the end, it's going to require more space. And it makes sense as an interim step to kind of get this going and seeing particularly that space is going to be in that area. How that space is ultimately used, kind of like that's, I think, the boundary committee will be crucial in that part of it.
I think it's a good idea to continue looking at it, to weigh the pros and cons, and potentially if it's viable for what the boundary committee might potentially go with, or maybe it's not.
And the builder's amenable to a long enough contingency period to allow that work to come to fruition?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is, yeah.
Can you just refresh what's the due diligence period that we would have upon entering a contract?
Last time we had 150 days. So it would be, I think, anywhere between 120 and 150 days. And those can be extended.
In one sense, it's good. I mean, we're kind of balancing the idea that we want the boundary committee to have enough time to get community input as much as possible with the Facebook Live presentations and these sort of things. But it's not the worst thing in the world to have it as a goal. We have a due diligence period. That some expectations are inherent in that.
Yep.
So I'm feeling like you're supporting me to go ahead, okay?
Yes. Yeah, just to clarify, you're just asking for the approval to move forward on a due diligence period.
A real estate contract with the
due diligence period, yes.
Yeah, it's not a done deal. So
No.
Everybody's gonna be like,
No.
everybody
It's a
getting excited
conversation,
and
right?
thinking this is all done. No, this is just an option that we're gonna be studying, and then everybody can see and make a decision later.
Yeah, and as I said, Mike and I will come back next meeting and we'll share with you what we anticipate the costs to build it and then to operate it going forward.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Is that all?
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right. May I have a motion for the reading and acceptance of minutes, please?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting of the Board of Education, March 13th, 2019, regular Board of Education meeting as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Glad Ms. Kane is feeling better.
Me too. Roll call?
Iannarino,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Kunz,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Motion carries. Board discussion and reports. Ed Red, Frank?
Okay, so down in Springfield, the governor recently announced his proposal for a graduated income tax. In order for that to pass, I would take an amendment to the Constitution, which would be a 3/5 vote in the House and the Senate, and then that passage would have to go to the public to vote, which needs a 60% vote to pass and become an amendment to the Constitution. The initial proposal is to break it up into 3 different tax brackets. The first two, 0 to 100K would be a little bit less, like 4.75%. 100 to 250K would be at the current rate, which is 4.95%. And then when you go over 250,000, they start raising it up, I think in increments up to the 7.95%. So what they're hoping to generate from that would be another $3.4 billion per year. But that would still leave us short quite a bit, so we'll see how that goes. A couple other things of note, a couple bills that are are pending that are kind of critical to what's going on. There's the 5 clock hour minimum that I don't think that affects us very much, but some schools like it because it gives they got rid of that 5 clock hour minimum and they're trying to bring it back. And when they got rid of it, it allowed some flexibility in the way the schools would run because they didn't necessarily have to have kids there for 5 clock hours. But for us, I don't think it affects us very much. But some schools would prefer that does not get passed. Some of the other stuff would be the minimum salary for teachers. They're still working on that. That doesn't really have any effect on us because our teachers already get paid at that rate. One thing that does affect us is they're still pushing the physical education requirement. Now, this is kind of a big deal because what they're pushing for is 150 minutes of PE for elementary kids, which right now we're at 60 minutes. We have like two days, 30 minutes. So there would be a significant increase. And I don't know if the fact that kids go on recess could fit under this. I think this is strictly PE, which means you'd have to hire a whole bunch more teachers. It'd be strain on the facilities. You would take away from instruction and other stuff. So unless you extended the school day, so this is that's a big problem. The second thing is for the middle school, they want to increase it to 225 minutes. Or for 7th and 8th graders, they have PE every day for about 40 minutes, 42 minutes or something like that. So it still comes up about 15 minutes short. So that'd still be a problem, even though in junior high we still have quite a bit more PE. So that's definitely a bad thing. We don't really want that. And then the last thing here, they're looking at school district consolidation, which is kind of interesting. I think it's in an effort to try to consolidate administrative costs and reduce overhead. They're going to have a committee make suggestions to try to take 25% of the school districts and require those 25 school districts to hold a referendum to consolidate into larger districts. I'm sure that's not a problem for us. We're quite large. But for other districts, that might be a point of contention because they probably like their autonomy. So I don't know how that's going to pan out for them, but for us, that doesn't really affect us. There was a bill, it was kind of unusual, it was passed in the House that requires schools to teach about lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals in society, in history, and I'm not sure why a person's sexual orientation has any bearing on their individual achievement. It seems to be a bit divisive to call that out. So that passed the House. We'll see what happens in the Senate. And let's see if there was anything else I wanted to mention. I think that kind of wraps up. No. Oh, yeah, there was one more. They've got a bill they're looking to requires to provide feminine hygiene products in all restrooms of the district, which would be free of charge, which would include male and female bathrooms, which seems a little odd.
One of the other bills that will affect us is the $15 minimum wage.
Yes.
That in the future.
That was already passed and done. So the impact of that would be something we'll have to wait for. Actually, I've written down this a couple of months ago when it passed here. We're looking at the impact of that is going to be felt in about 2025. So it's gradually increasing over the next 6 years. It'll eventually affect us. It'll start affecting us probably around 2022. We'll have a little bit of effect. That's when it goes up to $12. And then 2023 goes to $13, 2024 goes to $14, and 2025 it goes to $15. And I think when people pass this legislation, I don't know if they thought thoroughly through this, the fact that it has a ripple effect. When somebody at the bottom tier has their pay go up, that means everybody else goes up too. So it's not just the bottom tier going up, it's everybody. So that's going to be an impact on everybody. That's it.
Questions, comments? No. Barb, 1-5 Foundation?
Yes, St. Patrick's Day, they picked the winner for the 1-5 Foundation drawing for anybody who entered the 529 raffle. If you're like me, I got my thanks for playing email yesterday, but you are not a winner. So it wasn't me. I don't know if it was any of you. If it was, congratulations. There is a next fundraiser on the books. It's a spring barn dance. It's going to be held at Dirty Nellie's. Sounds like it's going to be a good time. It's Saturday night, April 27th, 6 to 8 o'clock, and it's $35 per ticket, and that includes appetizers and a drink. I've been to it in the past when they've done dueling pianos. Always a good time. This one's a little more of a country hoedown, it sounds like, so get your tickets early.
Your boots.
Get your boots.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Finance Committee?
No new updates.
Equity Committee?
There's no updates at this moment.
Superintendent's Communication Committee?
No updates.
2018-19 revised official school calendar. Did everybody take a look? Any comments?
Oh, I know, we talked about this, just it's a difficult reality of the calendar with the number of days we had, and it pushes into the last day being sort of a hanging Monday. Trying to figure out the questions.
He's already asked if we could change it.
I did. I pushed. I mean, and I've seen neighboring districts do things around, considerations of E-days, things like that. It seems like going forward there should be some consideration about having some level of agility in there, so that I understand the planning and burden that comes with having something like that structured, so that you can have a e-instruction day. But as we've gone to one-to-one Chromebooks, things like that, so that if we're in that really gray zone where it's going to be a awkward calendar at the end, that we can manage it better. It seems like there's things we should look at in order to try to accommodate that.
Yeah, I think that would be something to look for in the future. As you are aware, we did try to examine if there were possibilities of using some of the days that we don't have kids in school as days where they do it in school, so we'd have to end on Monday, but we'd already had many things planned, contracts with professional development and things. But I do think it's something that can be considered in the future.
The logistics aspect of that would be on a snow day, that there would be some sort of lesson planning that would be available. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we would have to sit down with the teachers union and make sure that they were comfortable with that. We had their agreement. It also would potentially impact other groups that work when kids are here, and if they didn't work, do they get paid for it or do they not get paid for it?
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as just
No,
doing
it's
it.
not a simple issue.
But yeah, we could definitely do that, because we do have a lot of devices today. Most kids have access, and we can also download things on kids' computers, so if they don't have internet access, they still have the work to do.
Something to talk about. All right. Board policy revision. There was a revision document with regard to professional personnel and the limited supplemental retirement plan.
Yeah, later in the agenda, we're going to ask you to suspend this policy. As I said, the budget implementation bill of May 2018 included that the maximum increase people could have at the end of their careers to qualify for pension was 3%, dropped from 6%, and our teacher contract was grandfathered because it was established before this date. But our policy here says that administrators are eligible for the same benefits as the teacher's contract and teachers. However, because they are not grandfathered, because they didn't have a contract like the teachers did, our attorney said they would not be grandfathered, and the district would be susceptible to a penalty if we didn't change this policy. Now, there's a House bill that's being considered to increase that last 4 years of service back to 6% increases. We'll see what that happens, but right now, in order to avoid the district from accruing penalties, potential penalties, we'd like to suspend this policy until we get more clarification from the legislature.
All right. We will now open our meeting for public comment. Please remember that this is not a dialogue between you and the board if you have a specific issue which requires a response. Superintendent Thompson will get back to you. Please state your name and identify any group that you represent. Also limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. If someone previously has articulated something that you agree with, please indicate your agreement rather than reiterating the entire comment. And finally, avoid any comments that are specific to a person, student, or staff member, respecting that person's right to privacy. This is not the forum to comment on personnel issues. Jim McGrath. It's always good to have an assistant.
It's my assistant. I'm Jim McGrath. I have spoken to you before. I'm a member of Everytown, Moms Demand Action, the Northwest Suburbs Organizing Fraction, the Gun Violence Prevention Group, the League of Women Voters Gun Violence Prevention Group, the Illinois Coalition for Gun Violence Prevention, and the Illinois Council Against Gun Violence Prevention. And what I'm here to do, when I spoke to you last time, I offered those organizations to the board for information and as resources. The other thing that I offered was, as updates came, I would bring those to the board, and that's what I'm here to do. That's what Jackie just passed out. Everytown for Gun Safety just issued a report entitled "Keeping Our Schools Safe: A Plan to Stop Mass Shootings and End Gun Violence in American Schools." So that's what I thought you guys would be interested in hearing about tonight. If you turn through pages, it's a 36-page report. I've highlighted some areas in here that I thought might be interesting to just kind of highlight as we go through. The first thing is, if you turn the first sheet over, you'll see our plan. It says pass red flag laws. If you're aware, Governor Rauner signed the firearm restraining order last year. It became law first of this year. The council has hired 2 people to train any organization in the state on the process of that firearm restraining order. So if the board is interested in that, I can help you arrange that for the parent organizations, for any school, for whatever. Okay. Then getting into the plan, the summary, there's three basic areas that they focus on. First is demonstrate what gun violence in American schools looks like. The second is outline a plan to prevent gun violence in schools. And the third is to stop schools from arming teachers. And that's where I've highlighted the first section. And let me put my cheaters on for a second. So the third point is, finally, this report provides a thorough overview of why arming teachers and allowing more guns in our school poses a risk to our children. Now, I know the board was not talking about arming teachers, but the tenets for this not arming teachers applies to guns in schools in general. So as you go through this, you can see that. If you turn a few more pages, I've highlighted another section. In the section called a comprehensive plan for preventing mass shootings and other gun violence in our schools, the second sentence there says, few have effectively and thoroughly addressed the issue common in all school shootings, easy access to guns by those at risk. Okay, that includes safe storage. That includes this firearm restraining order. So it's those kind of things that this report addresses. And by the way, this report is available online at everytown.org. It's a free, open report. Turn a couple more pages, you'll see another highlighted section. In the where it says implement basic security upgrades, and it says the most important effective physical security measures, the ones that are agreed on by most experts, are access control measures that keep shooters out of schools in the first place. So that is primary. I keep turning a little bit. The next section that I've highlighted some information in is called Arming Teachers is Dangerous. And again, this applies to just in general guns in schools. Is an armed teacher supposed to protect their children in the classroom? Will they be able to identify and shoot one of their own students if they recognize a student has taken a gun and brought it to school? How will they react in a crisis situation? Will they be able to shoot accurately? In crisis, how will law enforcement be able to distinguish between a lawfully carrying teacher and a bad guy? Turn the next page over. Students will access guns. The simple fact is that more access to firearms is strongly correlated with additional risk. When more guns are placed in schools, children will be more likely to access them. The next section. The risk of shooting increases. The risk of an unintentional or intentional shooting increases when civilians are allowed to carry guns in schools. Okay? So, excuse me, that just kind of ends my report, and this was informational. So I appreciate the time, and I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for coming out and coming back. Jonathan Corson?
Hello. Hey. I'm with Vocyon Digital Radio Communications. I'm the general manager of the office. I wanted to come here today and talk about the request proposal for to update the radio system to digital. I represent Hytera. We're the number 2 manufacturer in the world. We have 43% of the digital radio market. We value trying to do a user-friendly and value-centric solution for radio systems. Hytera's had the last three World Cups and 2 Summer Olympics. We provide all the security radios for it, as well as the 2016 G6 Summit. We've become kind of a popular choice with school districts. Actually, the Consolidated School District 118 in Wakanda just last summer switched over their radio system from an analog Motorola to a digital Hytera. When we were reviewing the specs outlined in the RFP, we proposed a system that we felt met and exceeded what was asked for at a far lower cost. We were also told through email that the district will be evaluating the product specifications as listed in the RFP. The district will consider any alternate recommendations. It appeared that our bid was dismissed out of hand, with no calls or emails being made to us for any research or questions, despite the fact our bid was more than $55,000 lower than the next closest one. Also in it was stated in the request, it was stated that apparent low bidder, Vocyon Digital Radio Communications, did not meet bid specifications, and that the district would incur additional costs to outfit our maintenance department with the proposed Hytera radios. This is flatly untrue. All of our radios are done to an open standard, digital mobile radio, which is DMR. It's actually European developed. Motorola has branded theirs as Moto Turbo. It's DMR. We can easily program to be able to work with the systems to have that, and any reprogramming that would be required would be done at no additional cost, which is in our bid. The bid was for a XPR 33E. We chose a Hytera PD602, which is this radio here. It is smaller, lighter. It is actually built to a military standard, which is higher, which is IP67, which means that it's entirely dust-proof, as well as water submersible. Well, the other one is only actually ready for spray and dust-resistant. We are the only bidder to propose a radio that was a higher standard than what was required. We also, any warranty or service work will actually be done by a Hytera technician at the Hytera office in Schaumburg. We are the only ones who can actually guarantee that any work will be done by an OEM manufacturer at an OEM facility and done locally here in Schaumburg, not getting shipped down to Mexico or anywhere else. It was clear that the RFP was written for Motorola centric. We put out some things that we noticed that we thought were wrong and actually kind of a waste of money in our personal opinion. They had a battery system which was designed to recondition the batteries. However, the bid also called for lithium ion, which can't be reconditioned, as compared to a nickel battery. The other one was also that they asked for a one repeater system to provide coverage for the entire school district with 100 watts. We made clear when we actually did a study on it that showed there were some holes in the coverage on it. While 100 watts will help the repeater reach the radio, it does nothing to help a 4-watt radio in a basement get back to the repeater. So they do have an emergency or anything and they can't reach the repeater, it doesn't really matter. We also put in there as part of the battery system, we offer to replace the battery for every 24, do one battery every 24 months for replacement. Again, we're the only one to do that at no additional cost. In conclusion, despite our bid being more than $55,000 lower, it appears that no research was conducted or consideration given to any of our products. Given the current budgetary issues in the state of Illinois, I would like the board to help consider what they can do with an extra $55,000, and if that would be worth the taxpayers to be able to have on there. We would like to be awarded the contract, but we would also like, possible for the vote to be delayed until the May 8th meeting, so more time can be given with the Technology Services Department to be able to evaluate our product. If they were to choose us through it, I can assure you we can have a system up and running within 30 days. I also have copies of my statement for the board if they would like it.
If you'll leave it with Julie, that'd be great. We'll
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So I think we will have some discussion about this when topic comes up for an action item later.
Sounds good. Anybody else? All right. Action item? Sorry. Item 19420, the personnel report. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the April 10th, 2019 personnel report as presented, including the following recommendation. A recommendation for probationary release for Carlos Malagon.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Porter,
Aye.
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
Iannarino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19421.
Make a motion to approve the resolution, non-renewal of administrator contract and reassignment to teaching position Adrian Bailey as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kane,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
Iannarino,
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19422. Motion, please.
Make a motion to approve resolution, non-reemployment of part-time educational support personnel employees as presented. Jennifer Foos, Carol Nelson, Terry Fryer, Vincy Thomas.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Hunt,
Aye.
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
Iannarino,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19423. Motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the revised 2018-19 official school calendar as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Porter, feel free to vote no if you'd like to.
I hate the Monday. Barb's she's excited because one of her son's birthdays is that day. He's excited that all his friends will
The entire
be.
district will be celebrating the last day.
Those that show up.
Day.
Your votes will
And
balance each
you
other.
will apparently be coming to dedicate a buddy bench at his school on his birthday.
Oh, boy.
So.
Maybe you have to sit on the bench with me and be my buddy.
Yeah.
Goody, that would be really nice.
And since it's a part day, maybe it's like pizza at Barb's house afterwards for
Right, I mean,
everybody.
just on the block. No, I heard there's a celebration in honor of Dr. Thompson that afternoon. So.
Yeah, that's very, very
I mean, if
exciting.
you guys want to come to my house instead of the school.
We'll celebrate first, then we'll come to your house. Anybody else? Discussion? Roll call?
Smolka,
Aye.
Shupai,
Aye.
Wong,
Aye.
Iannarino,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Khan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
For the record, I am with Dave on that, but I get it.
Well, so am I, but I don't think we can.
Dave,
do
you
too
gonna keep your
much
kids
to
home
change
from
that.
school and boycott her or something?
No.
They
He's
might
gonna
be
get a lot of
sick
grief
that
from
day.
home.
But you know, it's sad for the whole concept. I've heard parents say their kids are just not going to come on that day. But missing the last day of school as a child is monumental. It's such a fun day that, that's not cool.
Unless you already have airline tickets.
Good point.
Disney World does win over the last
probably a little more fun, depending.
Yeah, right.
Item 19424, motion please.
Make a motion to award the contract for the purchase of the elementary comprehensive literacy, English language arts, instructional material adoption, Fontes and Pinnell classroom for all K-3 classrooms to Heinemann Publishing, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, in the amount of $1,043,045.12. The budgeting quote as recommended, noting that grades 4 through 6 will be purchased and implemented in the 2020-2021 school year.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
So this money was already budgeted, I assume, right? So we've already got,
Yeah, we've worked out a four-year textbook replacement, new adoption with DOI. So we've got that scheduled out for the next 4 years. Yes.
all right.
I will say that Colleen Mullins did a fantastic job of presenting today, so thank you very much. As a passionate reader myself, I thought you kicking through the numbers of the amount of books was impressionant for me, because, you know, that whole idea of building passion in a reader is about having content that you're excited about and driving yourself into the next book and the next book and the next book because you're so interested in what's there and you want to learn something and you want to find out what's at the end of it. So having so many options, you're sure to have something that each child loves, and each teacher will be able to see that light go when they get them in. So.
Just clarifying, Mike, to your comment that this is spread out over 4 years.
So what we've done is I asked next door to give us a projection of what the instructional needs would be for all the different subjects, foreign language, social studies, math, etc. So we built that into our 5-year forecast that we presented to the board in November, and which we'll update to the board in June.
Okay.
So we know what we will be spending. I think it's, if memory serves, about $6.2 million, I think, through what's 4 years, 2023.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just jump in, because one thing we talked about was with the success and with the need and with our data, as we've been looking at it, the need to possibly accelerate it if we could, and 4-6 has come out a little bit sooner. So we want to have some discussions about possibly seeing if we could get some materials into the 4-6 grades a little bit earlier. It still is the same end result with the numbers, but possibly moving a portion of it up into next year as well. But again, we'll go through that. We're just at the beginning stages of seeing how we can do that. It'll be the same numbers in the end, but moving them around slightly.
So you want to move 2021 to 1920, a portion thereof.
A portion of 2021 to 1920.
But right now, you're only being asked to
Yes.
approve the initial cost, which is in the budget.
One portion. Further discussion? Roll call?
Shupai?
Aye.
Wong?
Aye.
Iannarino?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Smolka?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19425.
Make a motion to approve the healthcare renewal 2019-2020 medical, dental, vision rates as recommended.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Wong?
Aye.
Iannarino?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Smolka?
Aye.
Shupai?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 19426. Motion, please.
I make a motion to award the contract for the laptops with accessories, warranty, services, and options bid 19-019/Part 2 of 2, inclusive of 1,000 Lenovo L380 Yoga laptops with docking stations, 78 memory upgrades, and 20 spare units to Lenovo United States, Inc., Morrisville, North Carolina, in the amount of $816,800. Additionally, award the contract for the external CD/DVD drives to Riverside Technologies, Inc., North Sioux City, South Dakota, in the amount of $8,120 for a total bid award amount of $824,920 as recommended.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Iannarino?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Smolka?
Aye.
Shupai?
Aye.
Wong?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19427. Motion, please.
I make a motion to award the contract for the analog to digital radio refresh bid 19-021, inclusive of 503 Motorola radios, 100 chargers and wall mounts, and requested options to United Radio Communications, Bridgeview, Illinois, in the amount of $213,210.54. Additionally, the district's CARE program would be purchasing 60 extra radios in the amount of $29,188.74 for a total bid award of $242,399.28 as recommended. The award is based on lowest vendor meeting bid specifications.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
So I'd like to just address some of the things that Jonathan brought up and correct a few things. We, in the memo, it did say that the radio that his firm presented was not compatible with our trucks, which is, I think, is inaccurate. We had incorrect information when we wrote the memo. So those are, I think, as far as we know, compatible with the truck radios. This is a result of the safety committee investigating ways to be as safe as possible. And our safety committee is made up of at least 6 first responders from at least 3 villages or municipalities. And so the committee got together and all of the committee helped make this decision. And they chose Motorola. And we were able to put the Motorola handheld radio as the only device we were going to accept in the proposal. The reason, I mean, all of them use this same handheld radio. And so it was a recommendation from the safety committee. So it wasn't simply us doing it on our own. It's a joint effort to be as efficient and as safe as possible through this, as many measures as we can. We always want to save $55,000. I mean, that's a big chunk of money. That's basically a teacher for a year. So, you know, I guess what I would like to do is table this until next meeting and do some more investigation. Maybe we talk with Jonathan a little bit, and, you know, I don't know about you, Dave, but, you know, they used them in the World Cup. That's pretty good, huh? So,
yeah, you had me at World Cup.
I think, you know, we really want to make the best decision possible, but I also have to emphasize that this is not a simple process, and if we could just choose on our own, we might be able to do this really easily, but since we're working with so many other partners that already have this similar device, we really have to go back to them and ask them, you know, if they would be comfortable with it, if it does seem to be compatible, do some research to see if another district has been using it, and they've, in fact, know that it's compatible with their other current systems. So I guess I'd like to table it for a month and see if we can do a little bit more before we go forward. I think, Matt and Dave, that wouldn't put us in too much of a time crunch if we waited one more month till May.
I don't think so, unless we had to evaluate it to see if the coverage met district-wide. That may take a little bit of time, but hopefully not, you know, more than 30 days.
I think we should give it 30 days, and at that point, then we should be able to make a recommendation to the board.
Yeah, maybe default's always to go with a little bit, or the claim of not meeting bid specifications. It's one that you want to be prudent about using that appropriately. So I think it's advisable to take the time to assess whether it would meet the specifications and be compatible with both the bid and the other parties involved.
Well, is the question here more that it hasn't met the bid specifications, whether that's true or not, or whether the bid specifications need to be altered based on communications with our partners?
Yeah, I think it's clearly in the bid that we wanted the Motorola radio, okay. And so in the letter of the law, didn't meet the bid specifications. However, I think it's worthy of investigation.
But did we state that we would consider other?
No, does not.
I'm not sure exactly what the wording was.
I'd have to, normally, I'd have to get that one specifically out. Normally, what we'll put in a bid specification, we'll ask for like Motorola radios or alternates, or approved alternate. We'll have to pull out the bids back and see if that's in there. If it's in there. Yeah,
At any
that's
rate, I think it's worth
point.
doing just a little bit more investigation to see, and then we'll come back in May and let you know.
Yeah, I mean, some of the points he made were pretty interesting. I mean, about the IP67 standards versus an IP54. I think that's what you're saying, the Motorola is IP54. And then the lithium-ion batteries saying that they have to be reconditioned. Yeah, that's long gone technology. Everything's lithium-ion. So I'd be interested to see what kind of durability the product has compared to the Motorola unit. Because I'm sure they'll see plenty of abuse.
Lighter weight, stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to just see what kind of testing they do, what kind of test standards they meet. Because it's kind of in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I have to say, I get the no, go with what you know. I understand that. At the same time, things change. So if it makes sense to change, and this is the time to do it to save some bucks, we may want to look at that. If it doesn't make sense, because it really doesn't fit our needs, then we haven't hurt ourselves by taking some time to investigate. Okay. All right. So we are going, I'm going to ask for a motion to postpone, right? Okay, may I have a motion to postpone?
I think we can just leave it hanging and do old business next meeting. I think if we don't call for a roll call now, I think we can just do it next meeting.
All right, that's what we're doing. Okay.
Robert's rules.
Yeah. All right, item 19-428.
Make a motion to award the contract for the secure entrances bid 19-024, as well as 2 alternate bids to the Stuckey Construction Company, Waukegan, Illinois, in the amount of $426,200 as recommended. The award is based on lowest vendor meeting bid specifications.
Second. Discussion?
Just so we can put it out there, these are for which buildings? It's in our board packet, but just so
Virginia
that
Lake.
everybody can see it.
Virginia Lake, Plum Grove Junior High, Carl Sandburg Junior High, Kimball Hill, and Hunting Ridge.
And these are 5 of the 11. The other 6 will be done next summer. These were the ones that were a little easier, that didn't take quite as much preparation. But I commend the board for taking these steps to make these buildings more secure. As Jim's
gone.
Jim's not here. He
Jim missed
stated-
out on it.
He said this is one of the steps to take to make these buildings more secure. So I'm appreciative of the board and commend them for doing that.
May I ask a question, Mike?
Yes.
I'm just looking at our guesstimate kind of on cost and versus where we came in we came in at 426, right?
Yes,
And
correct.
if you take there are 2 alternates out of there, it puts us at 379. Versus, and I'm not sure if it was the first column projected cost or the last, like the fully loaded costs in the right-hand column on totals, where we had 810 fully loaded. Is this 379 against I know it's higher than what the estimate would have been, but is it
Yes.
against fully loaded?
So the 810 was for all 11. That was prepared internally by Craig Phillips, and it's interesting because I said the same thing to SDR after the bid opening. I said, "Oh, that's a little bit higher than I thought." She said, "That's kind of what we thought it would be." I said, "Okay, let me rephrase it. A little bit higher than what Craig Phillips had thought it was going to be." So I think when they did the bid specs, it's probably a little bit more involved than what Craig had estimated it on. So STR was comfortable with. I sort of answer your question. STR Architects, they were very comfortable with where the prices had come in.
That ultimately
that
was
was
my
right
question.
where their estimate was going to.
Yeah,
They
so
thought it would be.
They
yes.
felt it was going to be a
little bit higher than we had
elevated
estimated
versus
internally.
what we guessed.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? No more discussion? All right, roll call.
Kane. Aye. Khan.
Aye.
Smolka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Iannarino.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19-430, would anyone like to remove anything from the consent calendar? May I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Roll call?
Khan.
Aye.
Smolka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Iannarino.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Motion carries. Correspondence, Dr. Thompson?
Before we do that, I'd like to invite Dr. Hines to introduce some of our new hires that you approved tonight.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm pleased to recommend for board approval 4 new assistant principals that will be working with 4 of our existing principals. Mrs. Daly at Virginia Lake went through an interview process and selected Allison Friedman as her new assistant principal. Allison comes to us from Wheeling District 21, where she currently serves as an elementary instructional coach. She also has experience as a middle school information literacy coach and 6th and 7th grade teacher. Megan Price will join the Lake Louise team and support Mrs. Saywani. I hope I said that right. Megan is currently a middle school instructional technology coach in Park Ridge District 64 and previously served as an instructional coach in Skokie District 68. Megan's teaching experience includes time as a Project Lead the Way engineering teacher, STEM specialist, and 5th grade classroom teacher. Brianne Thurber will join Ms. Smith at Winston Campus Elementary. Brianne is an experienced assistant principal currently working as an AP at Neil Armstrong School in Hoffman Estates. And before becoming an assistant principal, she worked as a math instructional coach, a middle school math and science teacher. And lastly, Mr. Andrew Wilson will join new principal, Mr. Diacosta at Winston Campus Junior High. Andrew comes to us from Round Lake District 116, where he currently serves as the principal of Village Elementary School. Prior to his role, he served as the out-of-district coordinator and principal of the Round Lake Transition Program. Before becoming a building leader, he served as a high school self-contained special education teacher and middle school teacher. I'm excited to hopefully welcome these new leaders into District 15. I think they're going to make nice additions to an already strong leadership team. But we're not done with just assistant principals. We have a few more hires we hope to have approved tonight. Assistant Director of Human Resources position, which is a newly added position, will be filled by Erin Stein. Erin is an experienced building principal coming to District 15 from East Prairie School in Skokie. Prior to serving as a principal at East Prairie, she worked as a principal at Golf Middle School in Morton Grove. She also has experience as a middle school assistant principal and middle school dean of students. She's very passionate and excited to become a central office leader. And our newest hire is the Executive Director of Second Languages, Renee Urbanski. Renee will be our new Executive Director of Second Language when Cheryl Wolfel sadly retires from District 15 at the end of June. Renee is currently working as the English Language Achievement Coordinator in Wheaton-Warrenville District 200, a position she has held for the last 4 years. Prior to this role, she served as an instructional coach and bilingual teacher. Renee holds 2 master's degrees, an EL endorsement, a bilingual Spanish endorsement, and a general administrative endorsement. All candidates did go through a rigorous hiring process, which put them in front of multiple groups of central office as well as building leaders and teacher teams. We feel very fortunate to add these 6 leaders to the leadership ranks here in District 15. So I'd like to welcome them. Many of them are still hanging with us today, if you wouldn't mind standing up. Thank you.
Welcome. It's always great to hear about new people coming on board. Thanks, Lori.
And if there's one thing I was going to vote no to, it was letting Cheryl retire.
I agree. I would have seconded that.
All right, there were 4 requests for information under the Freedom of Information Act during the period of March 8th through April 4th. On March 19th, 2019, a request was received from Denise Burton, Bishop Plumbing. The response to this request was sent on March 26th. On March 20th, a request was received from Marie Shanley. The FOIA request was withdrawn on March 20th. On March 21st, a request was received from Bruce Barr. The extension letter to respond to the request by 5 additional days was sent on March 28th, and the response to this request was sent on April 4th. On March 26th, a request was received from Olivia Deloyan. Researcher NBC5 investigates. Response to this request was sent on April 2nd, and we received 2 checks from the Village of Hoffman Estates, one in the amount of $33,745.20 and another in the amount of $10,793.33.
We like getting checks.
Yeah.
All right, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.